قال المؤلف رحمه الله, said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him. Fasl, section. So we're finished with all the apostasy issues. يجب على كل مكلف أداء جميع ما أوجبه الله عليه. Obligatory on every accountable person, every religiously responsible one. That's the one who's sane and pubescent, and the call of Islam has reached that one. Obligatory on every accountable person is the performance of all of what Allah made obligatory upon him. Ash-sharh, the explanation. قال العلماء, the scholars said, الصبي إذا بلغ وجب عليه أن ينوي أداء ما أوجب الله عليه من ترك المعاصي وأداء الفرائض. The child, when he reached puberty, it is obligatory upon him to intend, to decide, to perform whatever Allah made obligatory upon him of abandoning sins and fulfilling the obligations. أي أول ما يبلغ ينوي في قلبه, meaning as soon as he reaches puberty, so teach that to your children who haven't reached puberty, especially if they're on the verge of puberty, which means they could become pubescent any day. That when they reach puberty, they need to make this intention. That's obligatory. To intend in his heart, يقول, he would say in his heart, أعمل ما فرضه الله, أعمل ما فرضه الله علي. I shall do whatever Allah made obligatory upon me. فأؤدي الواجبات وأجتنب المحرمات. Thus I shall fulfill the obligations and avoid the prohibitions. قال المؤلف رحمه الله, said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him, ويجب عليه أن يؤديه على ما أمره الله به. And obligatory upon one is to fulfill that in accordance with how Allah commanded him to do it. من الاتيان بأركانه وشروطه ويجتنب مبطلاته. Whether performing its integrals and its conditions or avoiding its invalidators. Those three things. For any worship or deal, that's what you want to know. Anything you want to do, you ask yourself, what are the details of those important three? What are its integrals, the integral parts, the elements that make it what it is? What are its conditions, the prerequisites, the things that have to be fulfilled before you do it? And what are its invalidators, those things that will nullify it? الشرح, the explanation. أنه يجب أداء الفرائض التي فرضها الله على عباده. Is that it is obligatory to perform the obligations that Allah demanded of his slaves. من صلاة وصيام وزكاة وحج وغير ذلك. Whether prayer or fasting or zakah or pilgrimage or other than that. على الوجه الذي أمر الله به. In the way that Allah commanded for it to be done. أمر الله به أن تفعل هذه الفرائض. In the way that Allah commanded for these obligations to be performed. من تطبيق الأركان والشروط. Including fulfilling, practicing the integrals and the conditions. ولا يكفي مجرد القيام بصور الأعمال. It's not enough to merely do what these deeds look like from the outside. To do what appears to be these things. كما هو الشأن اليوم, like is the case today. باعتبار أحوال أكثر الناس, considering the situations of most of the people. لأنهم ينظرون إلى صور الأعمال, because they merely look at the appearance of the deeds. without learning the details. So they act really without knowledge. All they know is how to appear to do those things. فأحدهم يذهب إلى الحج من غير أن يتعلم أحكام الحج. So someone would go to the pilgrimage without learning the rules of pilgrimage. ويكتفي بأن يقلد الناس في أعمالهم, and he would suffice with imitating the people in their outward actions. It's like he just looks and sees, what are they doing? Okay, I'll do that. What are they doing here? I'll do that too. That's insufficient. هؤلاء يدخلون تحت حديث رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Those people are included under the hadith of the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم. رب قائم ليس له من قيامه إلا السهر. How many a standing person there is who has nothing from his standing but staying up late. No benefit. وَرُبَّ صَائِمٍ لَيْسَ لَهُ مِنْ صِيَامِهِ إِلَّا الْجُوعُ وَالْعَطَشِ. And how many a fasting person there is. He has nothing from his fasting, no benefit from his fasting, but hunger and thirst. That's not a benefit, though. Means he has nothing. No reward. And it might not even be valid. It's possible that he has validity and no reward, and it's possible that he has no validity and then, of course, no reward. Rawahu ibn Hibban. Ibn Hibban reported that. وَقَوْلُهُ, and the author saying, وَيَجْتَنِبُ مُبْطِلَاتِهِ, and he refrains, avoids its invalidators. يفهم منه أنه يجب على المرء أن يعرف ما يبطل هذه الفرائض حتى يجتنبها. It is understood from that a person is obligated to learn what invalidates these obligations so that he would avoid them, those invalidators. قال المؤلف رحمه الله, said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him. ويجب عليه أمر من رآه تارك شيء منها أو يأتي بها على غير وجهها بالإتيان بها على وجهها. And obligatory upon one is commanding anyone he sees abandoning any of that or performing it in other than the way it is supposed to be performed. It's obligatory on him to command that one to perform it in the proper way. الشرح, the explanation. يجب على الشخص المكلف أن يأمر من رآه تارك شيء من فرائض الله بأدائها. Obligatory on the accountable person is commanding anyone he saw abandoning any of God's obligations to perform them. He has to command such a one to perform those obligations. وَيَأْمُرَ مَنْ رَآهُ يَأْتِي بِشَيْءٍ مِّنْ هَذِهِ الْفَرَائِضِ عَلَى غَيْرِ وَجْهِهَا أَنْ يَأْتِيَ بِهَا عَلَى الْوَجْهِ الَّذِي تَصِحُّ بِهِ. And he commands anyone whom he saw doing any of those obligations in the wrong way to do it the right way, the way by which it would be valid. هذا إن كان يخل بفرض أو يأتي بمبطل مجمع عليه عند الأئمة. This is one's obligation if that which corrupts the obligation or that invalidator that he engages in is something agreed upon by the imams. أما من رآه يخل بمختلف فيه, but concerning anyone whom he saw corrupting an act in a way that there's a difference in opinion about this actually invalidating the deed, لا ينكر عليه. Then, if that's the case, then one does not object to whoever is doing that invalidator that's not a matter of consensus, that it is an invalidator. إلا أن يكون فعل ما يعتقده مخلا بصحة الفرض. Unless this one is doing what he believes to be something that invalidates the obligation, that corrupts the validity of the obligation. فينكر عليه. So then one will object to him. كما ينكر على من أتى بمخل متفق عليه بين الأئمة. Just as he would object to someone who does something that corrupts the deed in a way that's agreed upon by the imams. وعلى هذا فمن رأى رجلا كاشفا فخذيه في الصلاة. So according to this, if someone saw a man with his thighs exposed in the prayer, أو غيرها, or outside of the prayer, لا ينكر عليه إلا أن يعلم أنه يعتقد أن هذا حرام. He doesn't object to this person unless he knows that this one believes that what he's doing is haram. And here when we say he believes, that means that's the way he follows. And it's not a condition that the person has a conviction about which saying is the right saying, because he's not a mujtahid, so that he would be obligated to go one way instead of another way. Being that he's not a mujtahid, he could go either way, but he might be someone who takes one way. So when he takes one way and then he does what invalidates that way, then you object to him. بأن يكون هذا الشخص الذي كشف فخذه يعتقد أن كشف الفخذ على الرجل حرام. By this person who is exposing his thigh being someone who believes, meaning takes the way. It's not a condition that he believes it as a conviction. Being someone who, but that's what the Sheikh says, so I'm translating it the way the Sheikh said. Being someone who believes, meaning he takes the way, that exposing the thigh for a man is forbidden. حينئذ يجب الإنكار عليه. At that time it would be obligatory to object to him. لأن فخذ الرجل اختلف الأئمة في حكمه. Because a man's thigh, the scholars, the imams, they have differed about its judgment. فقال الشافعي وأبو حنيفة. الشافعي and Abu Hanifa said, إن الفخذ عورة قولا واحدا. They said a man's thigh is part of his nudity. They said that as one saying, with though slight difference, which is the Shafi'i said not including his knee, and the Hanafi said including his knee. وقال مالك وأحمد بن حنبل في أحد قوليهما. And Malik and Ahmad ibn Hanbal said in one of two sayings of theirs, meaning both of them have two sayings, الفخذ ليس عورة. The thigh is not part of a man's nudity. وقال بذلك آخرون من المجتهدين. And other mujtahids said so. منهم داود وابن أبي ذئب وعطاء بن أبي رباح ومحمد بن جرير الطبري. Including Dawood. So the only Dawood I know who's supposed to be a mujtahid is Dawood al-Zahiri. And what I learned is that he's not really a mujtahid. So either that detail, that he's not really a mujtahid, needs adjustment, or the Sheikh is including him here as someone who's taken as a mujtahid. And also who said so, Ibn Abi Dhib and Ata ibn Abi Rabah and Muhammad ibn Jarir al-Tabari. They all said a man's thigh is not nudity. Looks like now it's a style these days to wear shorts that stop short of the knee. When I was young, we didn't wear that. Yani, I would feel shy to wear shorts that stop above my knee outside. Subhanallah. ويجب عليه قهره على ذلك إن قدر عليه. And it's obligatory to force that one to do what's correct, if able. الشرح, the explanation. أن من علم أن إنسانا لا يؤدي هذه الفرائض صحيحة is that anyone who knew about a person who does not fulfill these obligations correctly, أو يتركها بالمرة, or he abandons them altogether, وكان لا يمتثل إلا بالقهر, and he would not obey unless forced, يجب أن يقهره على ذلك, then it would be obligatory on that one to force him to do so. أي أن يرغمه إن استطاع, meaning he would make him do it despite himself if he's able to. قال المؤلف رحمه الله, said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him. وإلا وجب عليه الإنكار بقلبه, or else, if he's not able to, then it's obligatory on him to denounce that in his heart. إن عجز عن القهر والأمر, if he is unable to force that person and is also unable to command him. وذلك أضعف الإيمان, and that is the least of what someone with faith would do. أي أقل ما يلزم الإنسان عند العجز, meaning that's the minimum of what is obligatory on a person when he's unable to do more. الشرح أن الذي لا يستطيع أن يقهر ولا ينهى الشخص الذي يترك بعض الفرائض. The explanation is that the one who is unable to force or forbid the person who abandons some of the obligations, أو يأتي بها على غير وجهها, or he performs them incorrectly, بأن علم أنه يصلي صلاة فاسدة, by knowing that he prays an invalid prayer. أو يصوم صياما فاسدا, or he knows that he fasts an invalid fast. أو يحج حجا فاسدا, or he performs an invalid pilgrimage. وجب عليه الإنكار بالقلب, it's obligatory on this one to denounce that in his heart. أي الكراهية, meaning he has to dislike that. So that means he's going to summon up that displeasure in his heart. He's not going to be indifferent about it and say, hey, you do you, or it's on you. Rather, it's obligatory on him to conjure up the disdain for that in his heart. أي الكراهية لفعل هذا الإنسان المخالف للشرع بقلبه, meaning to hate the act of this person who defies the sacred law. He must hate it in his heart. بأن أنكر بقلبه, by denouncing in his heart. سلم من المعصية, if he does that, he will be safe from sinning. So we don't say, like when some people do bad things, I don't care what you do, it's your business. When it's haram, we have to say, and even if that's for our own selves, our own sins, we have to say, that's haram, that is detestable. وَهَذَا أَضْعَفُ الْإِيمَانِ, and this is the weakest of faith. أي أقله ثمرة أي فائدة, meaning this is the least benefit, or the minimal benefit. وَالْمُرَادُ بِالرُّؤْيَةِ فِي حَدِيث, and what's meant by seeing in the hadith, مَنْ رَأَى مِنْكُمْ مُنْكَرًا فَلْيُغَيِّرْهُ بِيَدِهِ, any one of you who saw something objectionable, then let him stop it, let him change it with his hand. إلى آخره, etc. till the end of that hadith. العلم بوجود المنكر. What's meant by seeing it is knowing about the existence of such an objectionable deed. لا خصوص الرؤية, لا خصوص الرؤية بالبصر. Seeing the objectionable deed by the eye is not what's meant in particular. فَإِنَّ الْعَرَبَ يُطْلِقُونَ الرُّؤْيَةَ وَيُرِيدُونَ بِهَا الْعِلْمِ. The Arabs, they say the word ru'ya, seeing, and they mean by it ilm, knowledge. في بعض الأحوال, sometimes. ويفهم من هذا أنه يجب على الإنسان إذا علم بمعصية من إنسان. And so it is understood from this that it's obligatory on a person when he knew about someone's sin, ولو كان غائبا, even if that were not in his presence, or he's not in the presence of such a sin, أن يكره بقلبه فعل ذلك الإنسان لهذه المعصية. It's obligatory on him to hate in his heart that person's performance of this disobedience. أما إن كان يستطيع الإنكار باليد أو القول. But concerning when one is able to object by hand, physically, or by a statement, فلا يكفيه الإنكار بالقلب, then it's not enough to denounce it in the heart, to just hate it and then not say anything. That's a very important, very, very important obligation. Many Muslims fall short of this obligation. First of all, a lot of Muslims don't feel shy to sin in front of others. A lot of Muslims do. So some Muslims, if they sin in privacy and they don't do it openly. But other Muslims, they sin openly in front of others, Muslims or non-Muslims. Some Muslims are shy to sin in front of Muslims, not shy to sin in front of non-Muslims. And some Muslims are shy to sin in front of anyone. And some Muslims, few, rarely, they are shy to sin because there are angels recording their deeds and because Allah sees them. Invisible angels. They're shy because of invisible angels. Then a lot of Muslims, in the presence of their Muslim friends and companions in particular, this is really what I want to get at, not the non-Muslims, although it's still the same rule, but in particular because we're Muslims, they don't object to the sin that the other Muslim is doing. Like some person who he insults the Muslims, he curses the Muslims, he calls them effort, and he calls them this and that, and he has there in his presence Muslims, and those Muslims, they know that's haram. What do they say? They don't say anything. And if really you are that one's friend for the sake of Allah, you're supposed to say, Habibi, you can't say that. Habibi, that's haram. Sibabul Muslimi fusuq. Insulting the Muslims is a major sin. If their friends would say something, maybe they wouldn't do that. Some of those, they come online and they do that. And they insult the Muslims online, openly, with their voice in their face, and call them names. Sibabul Muslimi fusuq. Insulting the Muslim is a major sin. And they do other sins also. فَهَذِهِ الْكَرَاهِيَةُ لَا تُخَلِّصُهُ مِنْ مَعْصِيَةِ اللَّهِ. This hatred in the heart does not spare him from disobeying Allah when he doesn't speak up. One friend of mine, he has trouble with his wife, and he's always telling her, that's haram. And she responds to him with whatever she says. So he was talking to me, and he says, what would you do if I did such haram thing? If you did such haram thing, I would say something to you. If I did some haram thing, you will say something to me. So he's so upset. And sometimes some people, if you told them that's haram, don't do it. They say, who are you? Who do you think you are? You do haram too. Whether they know you do haram too or not, they would say, you do haram too. And that's nothing to say also. The scholars said that the one who pours the wine for another is obligated to tell him not to drink it. Those are the friends for the sake of Allah. Two very important qualities of those who are your friend for the sake of Allah. One, if you do something haram, they'll stop you. Or at least tell you. And two, they're going to be honest with you. They'll tell you what hurts you because you need to hear it. Those are the great friends. May Allah make us among them. فَالَّذِي يَحْضُرُ الْمَعَصِيَةَ وَلَا يُنْكِرُهَا. So the one who is in the presence of the sin and does not object to it. وَالَّذِي يَعْلَمُ بِهَا وَلَا يَحْضُرُهَا. And the one who knows about it and he's not in its presence. فَلَا يُنْكِرُهَا بِالْقَلْبِ. And so he doesn't hate it in his heart. سَوَاءٌ فِي الْوُقُوعِ فِي الْمَعْصِيَةِ. They are equal in falling into sin. They have both fell into sin. وَسَالِمُ مَنْ أَنْكَرَ إِنِ اسْتَطَاعَ بِيَدِهِ. The one who is safe from sinning is the one who objected if he's able by his hand. فَإِنْ عَجَزَ فَبِلِسَانِهِ. And if he's unable, then by his tongue. فَإِنْ عَجَزَ فَبِقَلْبِهِ. And if he's unable, then in his heart. Very important. And this requires what? This requires courage. So if you are weak in your heart, then you're not going to say anything. Although you're able to. Not talking about you're not able. You're able. But your heart is weak. Then you won't say anything. Sheikh Abdullah said, courage is muktasab. Courage is acquired. Courage is acquired. And sure, there's people who are naturally courageous. That's why some people are fighters. Like they like to fight. And some people, they're not fighters at all. They hate to fight. They're scared to fight. Some people want to fight. Some people don't. But still, even if you're someone who has soft heart and you're not a fighter and you're not tough, let's say you're a coward, then you need to face your fear and speak up. Facing your fears, and I remind myself, this is something that's very important. وَمِنَ الْمُنْكَرِ الَّذِي يَجِبُ إِزَالَتُهُ الْكُفْرِ. And amongst the objectionable, that's obligatory to eradicate, is blasphemy. فَلِذَلِكَ فَرَضَ اللَّهُ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ الْجِهَادِ. That's why Allah made jihad obligatory on the believers. Not to conquer people, not to shed blood, to eradicate blasphemy. قال الله تعالى وقاتلوهم حتى لا تكون فتنة ويكون الدين لله. Fight them so that there would not be any tribulation. Tribulation here means blasphemy. Fight them to exterminate blasphemy, and so that religion will be for God alone. That's the 193rd verse of Surah Al-Baqarah. And Muslims should not say, you can be any religion you want. Should not say, I don't care what religion you are. Rather, he should say, you have to be a Muslim. And Islam is the only correct religion. And he shouldn't be afraid of that. Now, if it might not be wise to say it, he doesn't have to just say it for no benefit. But if it is the right thing to say, then let him not be afraid to say it. And don't be afraid of someone objecting to you. Some people have an aversion to others objecting to them. Even to the point of, so much to the point that if you just disagree with their opinion about trivial things, let's say someone wanted you to see a movie that he likes, or taste some food that he likes, or do any activity that he likes. If you don't like it, he would be defensive about it. Say, oh, you don't understand, or the likes of that. That's how much they can't handle someone disagreeing with them, let alone objecting to them. Or you would tell a person something true. I remember once when I don't know if I was even 20 yet. So I recited an ayah. I cited an ayah out of context. I didn't give it the proper interpretation. So someone mentioned that to Sheikh Samir. And Sheikh Samir, he told me that ayah means such and such, not like that. Not like the way you said it. So then I said to him, oh, I didn't mean it like that. What was that? And that was a natural response, by the way. I said, oh, no, I didn't mean it like that. And then Sheikh Samir said, mashallah. And he smiled at me, took it easy on me. Because someone like him, he knows how people are, right? Like, I didn't even have the self-awareness at that moment of what I'm doing. He knew. I cannot even see myself. When I said, I didn't mean it that way. It's because I don't want to be wrong or be objected to. وروى البخاري عن المغيرة بن شعبة أنه قال لكفار الفرس. And Al-Bukhari, he narrated from Al-Mughira, the son of Shu'bah. Here, there's an alif here. Shouldn't be there. Let me see something here. Yeah, even in my copy, which is an older copy here, I have a copy from 2005, published in 2005, page 154. This one is published 2022, almost 20 years later. My copy from 2005 doesn't have this alif here. So somehow that got inserted. Maybe there was a copy in between where this word was at the beginning of the line, so they put the alif. And then they made a new copy, and then because of the font change, it got into the middle of the word, and they missed removing the alif. So anyway, Al-Bukhari narrated from Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah that he said to the blasphemers, the Persian blasphemers, أمرنا نبينا أن نقاتلكم حتى تعبدوا الله وحده أو تؤدوا الجزية. Our prophet commanded us to fight you until you worship Allah alone or until you pay the jizya. So that's him saying the truth. وهذا على الترتيب. And this is in sequence. وَلَيْسَ تَخْيِيرًا. It's not a choice of which one to do first. فَإِنَّهُ تَجِبُ دَعْوَةُ الْكُفَّارِ إِلَى الْإِسْلَامِ. It is obligatory to call the disbelievers to Islam. فَإِنْ قَبِلُوا فَذَاكَ الْأَمْرِ. If they accept, then so be it. وَإِنْ لَمْ يَقُبَلُوا يُعْرَضُ عَلَيْهِمْ دَفْعُ الْجِزْيَةِ. And if they don't accept, then paying the jizya is offered to them. That's if they're qualified. The scholars differed about which kuffar are qualified for that. فَإِنْ قَبِلُوا تُرِكُوا. If they accept, then they are left. They are not fought, but they get annexed into the Islamic Empire. وَإِلَّا وَجَبَ قِتَالُهُمْ. Or else it is obligatory to fight them. هَذَا إِنِ اسْتَطَاعَ الْمُسْلِمُونَ. This is if the Muslims are able. وإزالة المنكرات الفعلية فرض كفاية بإجماع علماء الإسلام. And eradication of forbidden actions is a communal obligation by the consensus of the scholars of Islam. That means if some Muslims do it, then the rest are excused. للحديث الصحيح الذي رواه مسلم. Because of the authentic hadith that Muslim narrated. مَنْ رَأَى مِنْكُمْ مُنْكَرًا فَلْيُغَيِّرْهُ بِيَدِهِ. Any one of you who sees what is objectionable, something objectionable, then let him change it with his hand. إِلَى آخِرِهِ, etc. until the end of the hadith. ولم يزل الأئمة الذين كانوا قبل الأشعري والماتريدي ومن بعدهم ينكرون على أهل البدع الاعتقادية. And the Imams before Al-Ash'ari and Al-Maturidi and those who came after them never stopped objecting to the people of heretical convictions. من معتزلة ومشبهة وغيرهم, whether Mu'tazilites or whether they are God comparers or others. فقد رد عليهم الأئمة الأربعة وصنف عمر بن عبد العزيز وغيره من السلف في الرد عليهم رسائل. The four Imams refuted them, and Umar ibn Abdul Aziz and others, they authored works, they authored treatises in refuting them. وزاد المؤلف إيضاحا لذلك. And the author added something that he said for additional clarity to that. ويجب ترك جميع المحرمات والنهي مرتكبها. It is obligatory to abandon all prohibitions and to forbid their committer. ومنعه قهرا منها, and to forbid and to stop him, to prevent him, to block him forcefully from those. إن قدر عليه, if one were able to do so. وإلا وجب عليه أن ينكر ذلك بقلبه. Or else it is obligatory on one to object to that in his heart. Why the Shaykh said that this is additional clarity? Because this statement we just read is already understood from what we said. So now he's saying something, he's actually saying what's already understood. He's not leaving it to be understood, he's actually stating it outwardly. الشرح, the explanation, أن ذلك فيما إذا كانت المنكرات نحو آلات الملاهي والصور المجسمة. That is if the objectionable things were like forbidden instruments, musical instruments, and statues of bodies that can be alive. Not like model car or model house or plastic plants. Not like that, but like the brass jaguar that the old heads would put at the bottom of the footstep, or the brass elephant, or the likes of those, or the gnome in the garden, statues like this. فبتكسيرها لمن استطاع, then doing that forcefully would be by breaking these things for who's able to. Once a little kid came to me with his G.I. Joe figure. He showed me. He was so happy. So I took it. I broke the head off. He said, "No." وَإِنْ كَانَتْ خُمُورًا فَبِإِرَاقَتِهَا, and if that were wine or any alcoholic drinks, spirits, then by pouring it out. وكل ذلك يشترط فيه ألا يؤدي فعله إلى منكر أعظم من ذلك المنكر. And all of that, it's a condition that it would not, that doing so would not lead to a greater objectionable thing. Something greater than the objectionable deed that you want to take care of. وَإِلَّا فَلَا يَجُوزُ, or else it wouldn't even be permissible to do so. لأنه يكون عدولا من الفساد إلى الأفسد, because that would be a transfer from something corrupt to something more corrupt. وهذا معنى قوله, and this is the meaning of what the author said. وَإِلَّا وَجَبَ عَلَيْهِ أَنْ يُنْكِرَ ذَلِكَ بِقَلْبِهِ. If one is unable, then it would be obligatory to object in his heart. وقد حصل في أوائل القرن الرابع الهجري بناحية نيسابور. It happened in the beginning of the 4th Hijri century in the area of Naysabur في بلاد فارس الإسلامية في بلاد فارس الإسلامية in the Islamic Persian lands, because that came under control of Islam until now. أن طائفة من المبتدعة وهم سلف الوهابية المشبهة ظهرت وقوي أمرها. It happened then and there that a group of heretics who are the predecessors of the Wahhabis, the God-comparing Wahhabis, they appeared and got strong. حتى صار بعض العلماء يهربون من فتنتهم إلى الجبال. To the extent that some scholars fled from their tribulation to the mountains. فتصدى لإطفاء هذه الثائرة بعض المحققين من علماء أهل السنة والجماعة. And so some of the precise scholars from the people of the prophetic way and the majority of Muslims stepped forward to extinguish this issue, this problem. Minhum Abu Ishaq al-Isfarayini. Amongst them is Imam Abu Ishaq al-Asfarayini. He says with Fatha. Al-Asfarayini, Abu Ishaq. الذي كان من أكابر علماء أهل السنة. That one who is one of the elite scholars of Ahlul Sunnah. جبلا من جبال العلم. A mountain of knowledge. ولا سيما في علم العقيدة. Especially in the creed. والنضال عنها, and in defending the creed. فصار يقول لهؤلاء الذين أووا إلى الجبال. He started saying to those who fled to the mountains, يا أكلة الحشيش, oh you grass eaters, تتركون دين محمد تلعب به الذئاب, you leave the religion of Muhammad to be played with by the wolves. صار يوبخهم ويعيرهم. He started scolding them and dispraising them. معناه لما لم تثبتوا بين الناس حتى تدافعوا عن الإسلام. It means, why did you not stand firm amongst the people so to defend Islam? وممن كان له عناية ظاهرة في تقرير عقائد أهل السنة والجماعة بالأدلة العقلية والنقلية. And amongst those who had an obvious care, heed for verifying the creeds of the people of the prophetic way and the majority of Muslims by intellectual and documentary proofs, was Abu Hanifa radiyallahu anhu. فقد كان مشهورا بذلك. He was indeed famous for that. كان يتصدى لكسر الملحدين من المنتسبين إلى الإسلام وغيرهم بالأدلة العقلية. He used to step forward to break the irreligious people who are attributed to Islam, who are affiliated with Islam, and others who are not affiliated with Islam, by using intellectual arguments. حتى شهر وعرف بذلك, until he became famous and known for that. وصار كنار على علم. وصار كنار على علم. He became like a fire on a mountaintop, a symbol. وكان من شدة عنايته بالنضال عن الدين يسافر من الكوفة إلى البصرة من الكوفة إلى البصرة. And due to his intense heed for defending the religion, he used to travel from Al-Kufa to Al-Basra. سافر أكثر من 20 مرة لكسر هؤلاء. He traveled more than 20 times to break those people. لذلك كثرت العناية في أتباعه بعلم العقيدة. That's why such heed was abundant amongst his followers. Heed for the knowledge of the creed. Like Tahawi and Al-Maturidi and An-Nasafi, many. The Maturidis, they follow Abu Hanifa's footsteps, and that's how we are with our Shaykh. This is how our Shaykh was, always defending the religion. So we got on people's nerves for always defending the religion. So a lot of people hate us. ثم بعد انتشار بدعة المعتزلة وغيرهم قيض الله تعالى للأمة إمامين جليلين. Then, after the spread of the heresy of the Mu'tazila and others, Allah sent to this nation two noble imams, هما أبو الحسن الأشعري وأبو منصور الماتريدي. They were Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari and Abu Mansur al-Maturidi, radiyallahu anhuma. May Allah accept from both of them. فقام بإيضاح عقيدة أهل السنة التي كان عليها الصحابة ومن تبعهم. And so they stood up to clarify the creed of the people of the prophetic way. That creed upon which were the companions and those who followed them. بإيراد أدلة نقلية وعقلية, by producing documentary and intellectual proofs. مع رد شبه المعتزلة, along with refuting the fallacies of the Mu'tazila. وهم فرق عديدة, and they are numerous factions, those Mu'tazila. بلغ عددهم 20 فرقة. Their number reached 20 sects. فقام بالرد على كل هذه الفرق أتم القيام. And so they stood up with refuting all of these sects in the best way. برد شبههم وإبطالها, by refuting their fallacies and nullifying them, debunking them. فَنُسِبَ إِلَيْهِمَا أَهْلُ السُّنَّةِ. And then all of the people of the Sunnah became attributed to those two, because all the people after them followed their way. فَصَارَ يُقَالُ لِأَهْلِ السُّنَّةِ أَشْعَرِيُّونَ وَمَاتُرِيدِيُّونَ. And so the people of the prophetic way started to be called Ash'aris and Maturidis.